Yeah, now he's coming towards me.
Okay.
He's got his hand in his waistband. Yeah, he's a black male.
Okay. How old would you say he
He's
was?
got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's coming to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Sounds good. Just let me know if he does
Get an
anything,
officer
okay?
over here.
Yeah, we got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away.
Our group did a really interesting study of this. We brought people into the lab, and in this experiment, one sample were police officers and one sample were probation officers. We found the same thing in each sample. So we bring them into the lab and we say, we're going to ask you to read through this hypothetical discussion of a crime. And the person is going to be given a couple paragraphs to read that describe a crime, but that don't have any information about the perpetrator's race. In each case, it's a juvenile. Now, we tell you that before you read this, we want you to do an exercise to kind of clear your mind. And we ask you to look at a computer and to tell us whether a point of light that you're going to see flashing is on the right side or the left side of the screen. Now, in reality, it's not a point of light. It's a word. But it's flashed so quickly that you can't process it. It's all subliminal. Half the people in the study get a list of words that we associate with African Americans. Things like Oprah or reggae. So not bad things, but things that we tend to associate with being black. Half the sample gets a list of words that has no racial association, but that are matched for their word length. And then people are given these crimes to read, and they're asked, how guilty is the person? How much punishment does the person deserve? How likely is the person to reoffend? How adult-like is this offender? And in both samples, regardless of the race of the person in the experiment, if you got primed to think of African Americans, you rated the person, the criminal, as guiltier, more deserving of punishment, more likely to reoffend, more adult-like. Right? And this happened, as I said, regardless of the race of the person in the experiment. So black police officers were just as likely to do this as white police officers. Black probation officers just as likely as white probation officers. But it gets to something that's important about understanding disproportionate minority involvement in the system, which is that we have unconscious biases that affect the decisions that we make.
Racial profiling, the use of race or ethnicity as ground for suspecting someone having committed an offense.
Why is profiling such an involuntary action? Often as people, we can't truly understand someone or make a judgment when we tend to stereotype. Oftentimes it's based on racial prejudices. It's not just limited to adults, but also in children.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona?
Lei.
Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più? Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ha offeso. Tu. Perché mi hai chiamato nero?
Perché ti offendo?
Mi offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
No, io non ho usato nessuna cattiveria.
Quello sto mi sta guardando storto.
What race is affected most and why? The most common form of racial profiling occurs when police stop, question, and search African American, Hispanic American, or members of other racial minorities. The stereotype that minorities often live in low-income areas and poverty connects them to a higher crime rate, which in some cases is true and can cause for a person to construct a character mold that fits the criminal.
So does the media really provoke racial profiling? A quote from David Rawlings says, "We freely rely on culture, society, and media to tell us what we should be afraid of. Our society has been wired to follow the media point on specific topics, and racial profiling being one of them. Often occurrences are in hip-hop songs. For example, would be a song from an older rap group named NWA, and he says, Ice Cube the rapper says, F the police coming straight from the underground. A young got it bad cause I'm brown, and I'm not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority." Again, is stated in another song by Kendrick Lamar called The Blacker the Berry. He says, "Came from the bottom of mankind, my hair is nappy and mine is big. My nose is round and wide. You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture. You're effing evil. I want you to recognize that I am a proud monkey. You vandalize my perception, but you can't take style from me." In this, he speaks directly to the authorities. Other times, celebrities out of their own speak about their own experiences, and they try to get the public to try to inform the public on their opinions and how they should follow in their pursuit. President Barack Obama proved that racial profiling happens regardless of your own social status. He says the half-black president spoke on his experience with racial profiling, explaining that he has gotten pulled over at times for no apparent reason at all. The data shows that this is not an aberration, he said. It doesn't mean that each case is a problem. It means that when you aggregate all the cases and you look at it, you got to say that there are some racial biases in the system.
So I'm driving down the street with my 4-year-old nephew. He knocking back a juice box, me a Snapple. Today, y'all, we are doing manly shit. I love watching the way his mind works. He asks a million questions. Uncle, why is the sky blue? Uncle, how do cars go? Uncle, why don't dogs talk? Uncle, uncle, uncle. He asks uncle, uncle, uncle. He asks uncle, 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 as if his voice box is a warp record. I try my best to answer every question I do. I say it's because the way the sun lights up the outer space is because engines make the wheels go. It's because their minds aren't quite like ours. I say yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, no. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we laugh. He smiles, looks out the window, spots a cop car, drops his seat and says, "Oh man, Uncle, 5-0, we gotta hide." I'll be honest. I'm not happy with the way we raise our black boys. Don't like the fact that he learned to hide from the cops well before he knew how to read. Angrier that his survival depends more on his ability to deal with authorities than it does his own literacy. Get up, I yell at him. In this car, in this family, we are not afraid of the law. I wonder if he can hear the uncertainty in my voice. Is today the day he learns that Uncle is willing to lie to him? that I'm more human than I am hero. We both know the truth is far more complex than do not hide. Both know too many black boys who disappeared, names lost, know too many Trayvon Martins, Oscar Grants, and Abner Louimas, know too many Sean Bells and Amadou Diallos, know too well that we are the hard-boiled sons of Emmett Till still. We both know it's not about whether or not the shooter is racist. It's about how poor black boys are treated as problems well before we're treated as people. Black boys in this country cannot afford to play cops and robbers if we're always considered the latter. Don't have the luxuries of playing war if we're already in one. Where I'm from, seeing cop cars drive down the street feels a lot like low-flying planes in New York City. Where I'm from, routine traffic stops are more like minefields. Any wrong move could very well mean your life. And how do I look my nephew in his apple face and tell him to be strong when we both know black boys who are murdered every day simply for standing up for themselves? I take him by the hand, I say be strong. I tell him, I say be smart. Be kind and polite. Know your laws. Be aware of how quickly your hand moves to pocket for wallet or ID. Be more aware of how quickly an officer's hand moves to holster for gun. Be black. Be a boy. Have fun. Because this world will force you to become a man far more quickly than you'll ever have to need to. He lets go of my hand, but Uncle, he asks, Uncle, what happens if the cop is really me? And it scares me to know that he, like so many other black boys, is getting ready for a war I can't prepare him for.
Is racial profiling illegal? It is illegal. According to SB 1070, law enforcement officials may not use race, color, or national origin in the enforcement of the law, except under the circumstances allowed in the United States and Arizona constitutions. Why are officers often so much harsher racial profilers than the average person? For starters, the fact that they are trained to judge the danger of a situation quickly and act upon it hastily because of the threat of danger on their own life can call for the use of racial profiling. Whether just or unjust, oftentimes an officer's previous personal history has led them to believe that minorities, those who are racially profiled the most, are more likely to be dangerous. This was stated by David Rowlatt, professor of psychological sciences at Purdue University. He says when discussing the difference between racial profiling and regular profiling, the difference between profiling and racial profiling is that profiling uses cues about suspects' current behavior and the officer's personal history of prior situations to predict dangerous outcomes.
So to prove that the authorities are harsher profilers than the average day person comes with racial statistics. A study by the University of California Davis professor found evidence of a significant bias in the killing of unarmed black Americans relative to unarmed white Americans, and that the probability of being black, unarmed, and shot by the police is 3.49 times the probability of being white, unarmed, and shot by the police on average. And again, an analysis by the Washington Post stated that the only thing that was significant in predicting whether someone was shot and killed by the police was unarmed and whether or not they were black. Crime variables did not matter in terms of predicting whether the person was killed or unarmed. And a report by the retired federal and state judges tasked by San Francisco District Attorney's Office to examine police practices in San Francisco found racial disparities regarding SPFD, which stands for stops, searches, and arrests, particularly for black people. The judges working with experts from 5 law schools, including Stanford Law, found that the disparity group in arrest was found to have been increasing in San Francisco. Officers in San Francisco were also previously revealed to have traded racist and homophobic text messages, and those working in the prison system had been reportedly staged and placed bets on intimate fights. Although black people counted for less than 15% of all stops in 2015 in San Francisco, they accounted for over 42% of non-consent searches following these stops. This proved unwarranted. Of all people searching without consent, black and Hispanic people have the lowest hit rates, i.e. the lowest rate of contraband convert.
Examples of court cases dealing with racial profiling. Brown versus the City of Colorado Springs. In the year 2016, a lawsuit was filed by Ryan and Benjamin Brown. In 2015, Ryan and Benjamin Brown were pulled over because of their race, handcuffed, searched, and detained at gunpoint, all without legal justification. Despite a video recording that clearly showed the officers drawing their weapons, refusing to identify the reason for the stop, and using unnecessary force, and an internal affairs investigation concluded that the officers' actions were justified, legal, and proper. Zimmerman versus Florida. In the case of the murder of Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, the defendant, claimed self-defense and was found non-guilty on the charge of manslaughter. Martin was described as Zimmerman via 911 as suspicious. Martin was wearing a hoodie, dark pants, and white shoes. He only carried Skittles in Arizona on him. The police told Zimmerman not to pursue Martin, but he did anyway, presumably leading to his death. This is racial profiling because Martin had nothing on him. Just by his appearance, he was profiled as a criminal, although he had no criminal means. He was treated as such and therefore murdered by Zimmerman.